First things first, Nebraska volleyball playing the number 3 team in the country tonight, Pitt. And I heard they were dominating last I checked. I don't watch volleyball, but I love when they win because it just boosts the overall program. And I know a lot of Nebraska fans like paying attention to volleyball. Some of you guys go to the games, you message me. I've seen pictures from the stadium. It's pretty freaking legit. I've just never been myself. But yeah, what's up, guys? It's Friday night. I'm here to talk about some things. I watched Matt Rule's podcast yesterday. I saw the depth chart got released, and that was very exciting because there were actually some names that I didn't know would be as high up as they were. I'm actually bringing my friend Jake on tonight. He's a professional sports bettor, and he's been pretty freaking hot lately. So I wanted to get his insights and his thoughts on some of the lines for Nebraska players in week one for the entire season, and then some other college football bets that I've made and will continue to make over the next, I guess, 4 or 5 days before the full slate on Saturday after Nebraska plays. So, yeah, what's up? I'm going to bring Jake in a minute. Before I do, I want to start off with our depth chart because Nebraska ended up releasing it this morning. To my surprise, I didn't know it was coming this quick. I wasn't paying attention, man. I got to get back in the rhythm of checking for things because I've been so busy with other work and the move and all that. But I'm locked in. On the offensive line, you saw Gunnar Gatula. You saw him and Turner Corcoran ahead of Elijah Pritchett. It was all or. And the takeaway from the ors usually is that means a guy can potentially rotate as a starter. But then you listen to Matt Rule talk today at his press conference, and he said, no. This is looking more like Gunnar would be the ready to go today. Turner Corcoran's coming off of an injury, and Elijah Pritchett isn't ready to start right out the gate because he's had some false start issues. And when you've got a quarterback like Raiola, you don't want to give away any games because your offensive line is penalizing you, right? So I thought the left tackle was interesting, but not too much of a surprise. He also debunked the rumor that Elijah Pritchett has issues and could be suspended. I guess that wasn't true. And I see a lot of rumors. I tend to take them with a grain of salt, so I didn't think too much into that. Moving to left guard, wasn't a surprise with Lutovsky. Center, Justin Evans, wasn't a surprise. Right guard, same thing, not a surprise. Right tackle, it says Prohaska or Tyler Canuck. And I think Prohaska will probably get the start there. I thought that they said Tyler Canuck was dealing with some injury issue before, so Prohaska just makes sense. But the one thing you notice is the size. Every single guy is 300 plus, and you never know how true that is. The height and the weights are always questionable because guys like to boost themselves up. I see plenty of corners who list themselves at 6 foot or 6'1", and they're really like 5'10", 5'11". So regardless of all that, I'm pretty excited about the offensive line. There's a lot of opportunity. There's question marks, but opportunity to have them be really freaking good this year. On the tight ends, you got Luke Lindenmeyer as the starter, which I pretty much think everybody expected and knew was going to happen, with Heinrich and Carter Nelson swapping for Orr. I really want to see Heinrich be successful this year, but it's a loaded room, and I don't know how they're going to feature all of them. So game one hopefully sheds some light on it. The thing with Carter Nelson was he was supposed to be more of a receiver, but then he gained some weight. He's coming off of an injury or a surgery from the offseason, and you don't know what role these guys are going to be plugged into. We just know that Luke's kind of the overall. He's a pass catcher, he's a blocker, and we know that he's going to be featured out the gate. So, again, questions. We don't know how guys will be utilized, and that's what's going to make this season so interesting and fun to watch. At wide receiver, no questions, and there was no confusion. I think we predicted this the other night on the stream. You've got your top six: Hunter, Clark, Dane Key, Cortez Mills, Ja'Cory Barney, and Janiron Bonner. By the way, I downloaded the roster update yesterday for the new Nebraska roster just to play with it for a minute, and I played one game with Cortez Mills. First catch of the game for Cortez ends up being a 56-yard touchdown. He's super shifty in the game. He's like 92 speed overall, so hopefully he can be a weapon for Dylan. And then the quarterback room, you had TJ Lateef as the backup over Jalen Gramstead, which I think says a lot about where TJ Lateef is. And what's really good news is when you get a guy who's young to become the backup, and hopefully that gives him hope that, hey, if I do want to stick it out here, I'm going to know the offense, I'm going to be ready to roll. And when Dylan does leave, they have a ready-made starter who's been trained in the system. We know that's rare in college football these days, and guys like to leave. So I guess it could be a double-edged sword. TJ could get a lot of hype from other schools who need a quarterback right away next year, and he could get pulled in different directions, but none of that matters. The main point is they've got a guy who's a true freshman who can go in and play, and Rule's pretty confident in it, it seems like. Running back room, no questions. Emmett Johnson, Mekhi Nelson, Isaiah Mosey with Quentin Ives in the back because he was dealing with injuries. Now, moving to defense. This was where I had the biggest surprise. Williams Nwaneri. Now, I with 100% certainty know that Williams Nwaneri, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, was not expected to be a starter. I heard that there was low effort in practice and that it just didn't seem like he was the 5-star talent that a lot of people hyped him up to be after he had transferred in from Missouri. Now, I told you when he first transferred that I thought there were some red flags and it was questionable and who knows if it would pan out. But then I guess he had an explosive camp in these last couple of weeks and he's now boosted to the front. And you got Nwaneri and you got Cam Lenhart, two different type of players. I think Cam Lenhart's probably better against the run. He's shorter, stockier, whereas Williams Nwaneri's bigger, longer wingspan, can probably bat balls. He's more built like a Randy Gregory. He's just like a freak of nature guy who they're going to plug in, and I'm guessing he'll be more of the pass rusher. But again, that'll be probably a situational deal where those guys will play and interchange. At nose, this was a surprise for me. I'm not sure if it was for you. Elijah Judy, the starter, with Riley Van Poppel behind him. No or. We know that Elijah's been getting hyped up all camp. Rule loves him. He's like coach's favorite right now. But when you get a single digit and a guy like Riley, who's been hyped over the past couple seasons, they thought he would be turning into the next Nash or Ty. To have him behind Elijah is like, wow, okay, well, at least Elijah's living up to the 5-star that he had coming out of high school. Defensive tackle on the other side, you got Keanu Davis, Jalen George behind him. Nothing surprising. The one surprise here at Jack was Jordan Ochoa jumping Willis McGahee. He's a redshirt freshman, and he doesn't play yet, very much at least. And you got Desan McCullough going to be the leader there, but we know that they're going to have to rotate guys at that position. They did it last year and the year before. So Willis McGahee has serious competition, which I don't think a lot of us saw coming because he was such a stud as a true freshman. At linebacker, you got the or for Vincent Shavers and Marquise Watson-Trent. You've got Javen Wright above Jacob Bauer and Dawson Merritt. Nothing surprising there. Deshaun Singleton above Rex Guthrie and Derek Branch. Cornerback is Andrew Marshall. The other corner is Sierra Wright. No surprise. And then the safeties, Malcolm Hartzog and Marquise Buford Jr. So exciting to see what's going to happen because it looks like a lot of new faces and a lot of new faces in the depth, guys at different spots. And yeah, I think that we're just going to have to wait and see how these guys plug and play into these new systems. You have a new defensive coordinator. You have a new offensive coordinator. And who knows what Nebraska's play style is going to look like once it comes to Cincinnati. Before I bring Jake in, I'm going to answer a couple of the comments. The first one came before I was even on here. It's Joel. Thank you for being a member, Joel. Thank you for the $20 super chat. He says that he missed the first couple of lives, but he's jazzed to be here and to have our input on the team this season. Why do you think that everyone's so concerned about Cincy in the opener, first game jitters? I think it's a couple things, and it's totally justified that people are nervous about Cincinnati, okay? Let's be real. Nebraska's had struggles in the past in opening games. You're playing a team who is completely underrated. Like, no one thinks Cincy stands a chance, despite the fact that Vegas only thinks they're 7 points worse than Nebraska is, meaning that should be a game that comes down to the wire. Vegas is expecting, and keep in mind, Vegas is usually right. They're expecting Nebraska to go back and forth with these guys till the end and most likely have the ball with 2 or 3 minutes left trying to kneel it out. Well, in that circumstance or that situation, if you have one guy get messed up, a defensive tackle comes through, blows up an offensive lineman and gets a strip sack on Dillon, kind of like we saw against Iowa last year, the whole game changes and now we're all biting our fingernails, right? So I think it's totally fair that people are nervous about a season opener where you're playing against a Power 4 team, a team who's returning their starting quarterback, a team who has multiple transfers in from big-time schools like Wisconsin and Ohio State on their offense, a team who honestly was decent last year. I know they fumbled at the end of the year and they lost a lot of games, but this isn't a joke of a team. They have a real coach and you have to come prepared or you could lose. So I'm not predicting them to lose. I think they're going to win. And I'm not even predicting a close one. I think Nebraska wins this by 10 to 14 points. But that's why people are concerned. There are a lot of reasons to take Cincinnati seriously, and I'm glad that the team and Matt Rule are. And it sounds like he is. I mean, you hear Matt Rule talk about him, and he has a lot of respect for him. So, yeah. Alex says, what would you do for a national championship? I don't know. I couldn't think of anything crazy off the top of my head, but I pay a lot of money for it. I'd go into debt for it. That's what I would do. I'd go into debt for a national championship right now. Let's see. Logan, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says he finally made it to a live stream. Marquise Buford decided my fantasy draft order, and he gave me 101. I like that. Marquise Buford and you talk, he's a good dude. So I talked to him one time on a live stream. I really like him. Let's see here. Brian, thanks for being here. He says, go Big Red. It's officially game week. Time to get hyped. And Fiddy says, knock on wood, Nebraska's never lost when I was at the game. I'll be there. Thank God, Fiddy. Thank God you're pulling up so that we can get some good energy in the stadium. With all of the chats cleared, I want to bring on my friend. So before he comes in, I'm just going to tell you who he is. This guy's a professional sports bettor who makes picks in different Discord groups, and essentially people pay for his advice. He's like, think of it as like a sports betting consultant. I've been friends with him for like almost 10 years, and in the time I've known him, he's net positive. In every season, actually, I think he's been net positive, maybe outside of one or two. So Jake and I talk all the time, and I'm really excited to have him here. So with that said, here is Jake. He goes by Snowman Picks. Jake, thanks for being on the show. I know you've been here a few times. He's a diehard Indiana fan, by the way. But what are your thoughts?
Don't bury the lead. We've been on this show plenty of times together.
3 or 4. I want you to tell us your initial thoughts on Nebraska Cincinnati, since I won't talk to you until after that game.
My initial thoughts are as follows. I'm very high on Nebraska going into the season, especially from an offensive perspective. I mean, when you're kind of looking at the landscape of college football, especially recently, it used to be relatively simple. Who's got the most returning production? Who's got the guys that are going to step up, the high, draft pick kind of guys, the high recruits we know are going to improve better. Now with the transfer portal, it's kind of fucking everything up. But I do like what Nebraska did to address some of their weaknesses, mainly on the offensive coordinator position, bringing in Dana Holgorsen. I know it was at the end of last season they brought him in, but this is a guy who's an elite coach. He's been around the block. He was one of the founders of the air raid scheme. So pairing an elite offensive mind like this with a guy in Dylan Raiola, who I think certainly seems one of the foremost candidates in the country to take a step forward at that QB position, all lines up well for Nebraska. So I think they're going to be pretty solid in this first game against Cincinnati. I don't think Cincinnati's a very good team at all. I think as long as Nebraska's defensive line can stay pretty productive, as you know, they lost a lot of talent from last season when the DC left. But as long as the defensive line isn't just horrific, I think Nebraska should have their way with the Bearcats here.
Okay, well, let's compare Nebraska and Indiana. You're a diehard Indiana fan. Indiana gets Fernando Mendoza. They have Elijah Surratt coming back. I think they got a transfer running back. I mean, Indiana's Indiana. They're loaded on defense. What do you think about Indiana's year 2 versus Nebraska's year 2?
Are we saying Nebraska year 2 like last season?
Sorry, Nebraska year 3, Indiana year 2.
I'm very high on IU this year as well. As you mentioned, the defense is absolutely loaded, returning a ton of production. Really, the main position that Indiana lost was quarterback and Curtis Rourke. And as you said, they brought in Mendoza, who was a super highly ranked portal guy in the transfer portal. So I think the outlook is pretty good for both teams. Unfortunately, we don't get to play this season after the domination that Indiana had over Nebraska last year. But I think we see Matt Rule kind of building his way, the 3-year rebuild, the kind of traditional college football rebuild versus Kurt Cignetti come in, do it right away, and, all systems go. I think it's probably a little bit more realistic to say that Indiana has a lot better chance of being a disaster this year than Nebraska. I feel like the bottom could definitely fall out if everything goes the way it normally goes for Indiana. I mean, the last time we had a lot of promise, Michael Penix gets hurt in the first game of the season, and there it went. So I think that, Nebraska's got a pretty good floor, especially schedule-wise. It seems like they have a very realistic chance to go, 5-0, 6-0 to start the year if they can get through that Michigan game, which I'm sure, you've talked a lot about. But with Michigan not having their head coach, with it being a true freshman going on his first ever Big Ten road game.
Yeah, a lot of red flags for Michigan in that situation. Yeah. You talk about Matt Rule, Nebraska's floor. Did you see that Matt Rule released a podcast yesterday?
I saw that he did House Rules, House Rules. I did not listen to it, but I did see he's getting into the content game. Yeah,
so what I think is really attractive about Rule is that when he first came to Nebraska, there's a guy who used to work at Nebraska. His name's Jordan, and he did all the content. And he ran all the behind the scenes on social media. He was doing all the videos, everything. Super creative guy. Everyone knows who he is if you're a Nebraska fan. But anyway, Jordan and I would talk a lot. And we talk about the importance of growing the content realm at Nebraska and figuring out how they can be more like a Colorado, who at the time was putting out videos every single day. And the reason for that was you want more exposure. You want people to be able to see inside the program and basically the best things that Nebraska has to offer, because at the end of the day, recruiting is everything. And if you can get yourself out there, recruits are going to want to come. What Matt Rule's done a really good job of, and something that is now showing in his podcast, is he knows how to relate to the common people. He knows how to put content out there that people really enjoy and appreciate. And on top of all of that, he's showcasing Nebraska and all of the best things they have to offer in every single piece of content he's offering. You see him walk through the facilities. You see him walk with players. You see his connection to people. And you see, wow, this is a really normal guy. He's not a coach who has a bad attitude. He's not a coach who's so desperate to win or hungry for whatever other things that people aren't interested in hearing about. He's just a good person who comes in, wants the best for his players, wants the best for his school. If things work out, they work out. And if they don't, he's like, look, I'm going to move on and do whatever it is. Like, my world won't end, which is really relatable, I think, for most people. So Matt Rule putting that podcast out, number one, was exciting and entertaining because you get to watch him talk and you love hearing what he has to say since he's the head coach and he has more insight than anybody. The other thing is he's putting content out that's helping draw more attention to Nebraska. And obviously Dylan Raiola coming was a huge first step in that. The whole nation is now talking about Nebraska because of a 5-star quarterback being there. And now that you have more talented players coming in, they're playing in bigger games, the moments are stronger. People are paying attention to Nebraska in a way they haven't before, and it's like the perfect time to release a podcast like that. So I would check it out. I'm sure he's gonna have guests on there. It'll be, I don't know how often, maybe a weekly thing, maybe a monthly thing, whatever it is. I know a lot of Nebraska fans are gonna tune in to watch. I did right away, first thing I did last night when I got home. But I think Nebraska's got this national spotlight on them, and that's making it so that the floor is being raised when you get all of these positives coming into the program. So yeah.
And it's not only that. I think a lot of people in general, I mean, now with college football approaching, we have the season starting tomorrow. We're starting to see everyone post their playoff lists. I mean, I saw Josh Pate has Nebraska to make the playoffs in his prediction. I'm seeing a lot of people having Nebraska as like an upstart, good odds team to make the playoffs. I think there's a lot of hype behind this Nebraska squad, especially from the gambling community as well. So they're going to be a team that's going to be very heavily focused this year. There's going to be a lot of eyes on them, as there always are. And Raiola is going to definitely be under the spotlight. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Okay, a couple super chats before I go into talking about the gambling. Dave, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member, and thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, for me, the surprises are Ochoa, Khan, and Latif. And I think those were all surprises. I think Latif was less of a surprise for me because I had heard he was having a really strong fall camp, and I thought Nebraska would want to go younger if they had the opportunity to at that backup spot. So I'm glad it worked out that they were able to. Logan says you should watch the video Nebraska's page posted today. Okay, I'll check that out later. And Caleb, thanks for being a member for so long. He says, my super chat never came up. Watching the volleyball game now, just wanted to say I saw the depth chart and noticed a bunch of young guys. Shows they can step up and help. That's a fact. And it really shows you what the outlook is for Nebraska's future. This is a really strong year where they got to get to 8 or 9 wins and lay a foundation. Last year was good, but it was a freshman year for their quarterback, and they only got to a bowl game. This year, they've got to really prove it. That'll set them up for a future where you have all of these young guys stepping into even bigger roles than they have now. And even though they're going to play somewhat right now, they're going to come in next year and actually be the starters. So yeah, Caleb, I noticed that too, and it makes me extremely excited for the future. So Jake, I want to show off your recent win, right? Like a big one for you. So before
biggest one of my life, in fact.
Yeah, biggest one of your life. So before I jump in and have Jake give me some betting advice, I just want to show you guys he's a reputable sports bettor. So this is all in one day, by the way. So he had a plus 28,700 pick that paid $17,280. Okay. He then the same day had a bet that was 200 to win 3,400. Make sure I can see this on the screen. I can. Then later he had 440 to win 20,000. So what? That was damn near a $40,000 day, Jake.
Yeah, over 40K. And it wasn't just the same day. If you look even closer, technically it was the same bet. This is a bet that's called a ladder. Yeah. So basically you're taking, guys at one level, and then you're taking like higher rungs and higher rungs so that if they have insane games, and of course when you're betting, you're taking guys that you think are in great positions. Well, if they all happen to go insane, you're having a massive day. And it just so happened to be a day that everything came to fruition. And was about a little bit under a month ago, and by far the biggest win of my life. It was absolutely insane.
I like it. So you're loading up and you're ready for college football now that you went on baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I saw this you posted. So it's $150 to pay $3,000 on Prize Picks. You've got Dylan Raiola over 2,700 passing yards, which to me seems pretty low. He threw for about that last year. What do you?
It's insane. He threw for more than this number last year. He has a full offseason with the scheme, full offseason with Dana Holgerson to get better. You automatically expect the guy to be better from his freshman year to his sophomore year anyway. Plus, Nebraska has a pretty favorable schedule. It seems to me the only way this misses is if he gets hurt, and you could pretty much make that argument for any player with any future bet.
100%. I don't know why that number's so low, but I love it, and I will be taking it in Prize Picks. By the way, I'm not sponsored by any gambling companies as of right now. I will be starting on Monday, but nothing right now. And I'm not working with Prize Picks this year. Love Prize Picks, though, so we'll still talk about it. Fernando Mendoza, you have Mekhi Hughes, Jordan Tyson, Carson Beck. What's your second favorite play on here, on this slip, if I wanted to use it?
I think my second favorite play would be Mekhi Hughes, the running back for Oregon, over 900 rush yards.
Okay.
This is a guy who transferred from Tulane. He was a starting running back each of the last 2 years at Tulane, had like 1,400 yards in both seasons. He's been one of the best running backs in the entire country. Now he's transferring up, moving on up like the Jeffersons into a dynamic, high-powered, fast-tempo offense that is going to likely be winning most of their games, therefore probably going to be running towards the end of the game here. He's the undisputed starting running back here. They're paying him a ton of money. By the way, the last time Oregon did not have a 1,000-yard rusher, 2016. It's been almost 10 years since the lead Oregon back has not had 1,000 yards. Oh, by the way, in that 2016 season, he had like 975. So it's barely under 1,000 and still would be over this 900 yards that you need from Hughes. So again, maybe there's blowout potential if they're up by 35 and they take him out. But likely if they get up 35, he has a big game anyways. He's got to bust some big carries in that situation. So love that play as well. Hughes over 900 rush yards.
That's a good point. Okay, I like that. That's a really good play. We're going to talk about some more Prize Picks before. Dakota, thank you for being a member for 34 months. He says, do you believe Nebraska has a top 25 D again this year? It's really hard to say. Last year and the year before, they were top 20. I would expect them to be. You look at who they have coming back. They have a lot of returning starters. Their DBs are really strong. It's just an unknown up front. And until they prove it, it's hard to say. Based on their schedule, I would say, yes, they're going to have a top 25 D. I think their offense is going to be strong enough to keep them off the field, and the defense will be able to create some turnovers and hold some teams to, low totals again, less than 17 points. So I would say top 25. Top 20, I'm not sure. I think they're going to regress slightly, but you never know. I don't want to make a prediction on that too early because I haven't seen what they're going to do. I like the question, though. Okay, so on Prize Picks, they dropped the Avery Johnson play, so he just has to throw for 1 yard tomorrow. So if you guys do use Prize Picks, make sure you go and cash this one in. It's just 1 yard. I saw for college.
In general, if you bet on sports, you should take as much advantage across any sports book, any platform when they give you boosts, discounts, free squares like that. I mean, these are the freest plays of the day. They're trying to give you a win for marketing purposes, right? They're saying, hey, we're going to market the shit out of this. You get a free play. Take advantage of it.
100%. If you're going to play, you got to play smart. So if you were to take Dylan with that Avery Johnson play, because you can do those together. So take more on Dylan and more on Avery Johnson to throw for 1 yard. You can bet 25 on that. And it would pay $75 if Dylan, because Avery we know is going to throw for 1 yard. So as long as Dylan throws for 2,701 yards this season, you'll turn 25 to 75. So I really like this square a lot. I would use it on Dylan if you guys have a free and you guys are already locked into Prize. Talking about the first games of the season, I wanted to look at some Nebraska players and see what you thought, Jake. So
if you go to the search bar, you can type in Nebraska and it will show you all the Nebraska people.
You're right. But where's my search bar? In the front? Oh, here.
It's the magnifying right there, yeah.
Let's see, Nebraska. Okay, so this is for game one. We've got Dane Key to have a 21.5-yard reception. I think that's total luck. You never know if that's going to happen. I stay away from it. Dane Key to have at least 3.5 receptions.
I think that's a play that wouldn't be horrible when you know the type of routes he's going to be running in the scheme. But before the first game, we don't necessarily know how Nebraska is going to be using him. So I agree to stay away until we know a little bit more.
I think all of the receivers, it's hard to know who the top targets are going to be, And then is Nebraska going to be run heavy? It's hard to know. But Key at 3.5 receptions, I don't hate it. They're going to target him. He's a starting receiver. 49.5 receiving yards. Dylan to throw 2 touchdowns. Okay, I do like this one. Nebraska's a pass-happy offense. I don't know that they're going to be in position where they're going to be trying to run it up the middle on the goal line or from the 5 yards out. They'll probably do little swing passes or get Emmett Johnson the ball in space. So I actually really like this more than 1.5 passing touchdowns for Dillon in the first game. What else do they have on here that's interesting? Dillon's longest rush to be more than 5.5 yards. That's attractive as well. I think Dillon's going to be more willing to run the ball this year and use his legs. I'm not sure how often, but to only run for 6 yards, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, 5.5 seems crazy low.
Right? And he's quick. Dillon can move. What do you think about?
Keep in mind, this game is in Kansas City Stadium. He's going to be feeling like Mahomes, scrambling on third down, trying to use his legs like that. He'll be feeling himself in that game.
Look at his yards total. It's at 246.5 right now. He hasn't hit that since the Wisconsin game. But I think the theory is this is the worst defense he's playing since then.
And the offense is theoretically going to a much faster up-tempo scheme.
Yeah, so that could be a play. Emmett Johnson to have a 17.5-yard run. That's, again, risk. I don't know about that. I wouldn't touch it. But what I do love from Emmett is to have 23.5 receiving yards. He's hit that every single week for the last 4. So for the last 4 games he played. So I really like Emmett at 23.5 receiving yards. I could see him hitting 50. So I'm taking this. Emmett at 64.5 rush yards. Let's see. Ja'Cory Barney to have a 23-yard catch. Ja'Cory at 51.5 receiving yards. So could he get to 52? He's done it 2 out of the last 5. Again, I think it's hard to know what receivers are going to be getting the most love right out of the gate. So I'm staying away from that. Luke Lindenmeyer at 9.5 receiving yards. That's interesting. But again, we don't know how much Luke will be a target. You've got 2 other receivers or 2 other receiving tight ends in that room. Will they pull them in if they want to throw the ball? Luke could have 1 catch for 5 yards and jam me up. So that's a tough one. Girth says he has Dane over 49.5 for his longest over 49.5 receiving. Longest rush over 5.5. Emmett for over 64.5. Ja'Cory for 51.5. So he is taking Lindenmeyer for the 9.5 receiving yards. Interesting.
I'd say my favorite one of the ones that you just went over is definitely Raiola over 5.5 longest run. That one seems just so low. It's not like you have to worry about sacks taking it away like you would with the rushing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, you just need 1 6-yard run, a 3rd and 7 that he uses his wheels to convert. They're probably not going to call too many designed runs for him, but there should still be enough opportunity to scramble at least once for 6 yards. And I don't think he's the type of guy to just scramble for 1 or 2. I think it's one of those things where it's like if he sees an open lane, there's a clear out path, he can easily run to the first down marker, get out of bounds.
Yeah, if Dillon runs, he's running for at least 5 yards. I agree with that. So here's what I did. For my $25 pick with Avery Johnson, I paired it with Emmett Johnson and 23.5 receiving yards. I love that play too much not to take it. So that's my first one I took. I also took Raiola on the season to have 2,701 passing yards with Katron Allen, who's the co-starting running back for Penn State, to have 826 rushing yards. He's gone over that, I think, every single season. He had over 1,000 last year, over 900 the year before. And I took the starting tight end at Iowa State to have 18 receiving yards tomorrow. So I like that. I think Iowa State's focus is going to be the tight ends because they have an all-new receiving core, whereas the tight end room is something that's a comfortability point for them. Another one I took was...
So on that tight end, by the way, for tomorrow, he's at 12.5 on FanDuel.
12.5?
12.5 on FanDuel.
Wow, super low. Okay. I took this early, so the line's probably moved,
No, I think FanDuel has hung a really low line compared to the rest of the market.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I took that Hughes play that you talked about with Fernando
Mendoza.
Mendoza.
He's off the board now. Ooh, look at that. We got something off the board. W's.
Yeah, so he's not even on it. So you're right. He's not at 12.5. He's going to be at whatever this is.
They're going to put back at 18.5, exactly.
Yeah. So you've got Dylan Raiola, Fernando Mendoza, Mekhi Hughes. I like those 3. 25 pays 150. Those are full season. And then my last one is Dylan to have 2 passing touchdowns, Daniel Highshaw to have 70 rushing yards, the running back for Ohio State to have a touchdown, and the quarterback for Fresno State to throw for at least 150, which I think they're going to have to pass because Kansas is at home and a 14-point favorite. So those are my initial picks, and I like your insights on prize picks. So let's see. I got to log back into FanDuel. We're going to see what I took here. I'm going to talk through them. Okay. So I really liked Georgia Tech this season.
Mhm.
I liked their over at 7.5. But the problem was it was at minus, what was it? I think minus 168 or something. So I decided to parlay that with Utah to make a bowl game. Utah consistently shows up. Last year, they had a lot of injury issues. They didn't have their quarterback. And they still
being out all year just basically fucked the team.
Yeah, he did. So Utah was serviceable last year, but not the normal versions of themselves. They now have a really good quarterback from the transfer portal, and I just think that they're going to bounce back to the team that they should be. So getting to a bowl game seems realistic. I like that as my parlay play with Georgia Tech to get the odds boosted. Let's see here. I took Oklahoma, Mizzou, and Iowa State. Oklahoma needs 7 wins. Mizzou and Iowa State just need to make a bowl game. My logic on Oklahoma is that they already have a really good defense. I trust their defensive coordinator, their head coach. And having John Mateer in there now with the new OC who worked with them before, Oklahoma's winning 8 games this year at least. I mean, Oklahoma could be a threat to go to the playoff if their schedule wasn't so freaking tough. But, I mean, even then, they could overcome some things. Mizzou, what are your thoughts on them?
My thoughts on Mizzou, I like Prabula, the quarterback from Penn State. I mean, we remember having to go against him in random spots. And it seems like the guy is just hyper talented, and now it's his first time getting an opportunity. Mizzou lost a lot of returning production from last season. You know, they lost Brady Cook, they lost Luther Burden, they lost their top running back. So you're figuring out how they're going to replace all that is going to be difficult. But I do like and think that Drinkowitz, who's a very solid offensive head coach, is going to figure out how to get the most out of Prabula. And I think I have them down for 7 wins on my preseason projections, which is technically under the 7.5, but easily over the 6 that you need from them.
Yeah, so I just think they're a consistent team who wins 9 games under Drinkwitz, and I think that's going to keep going. So get to a bowl game, I like it. Same with Iowa State. Bowl game, give it to me. Keep in mind, these are all parlays, Jake. The reason I'm getting these so low is because I parlayed them. I took this bowl game parlay. So it pays 134 plus 134. Texas Tech, Kansas State, ASU, Nebraska, South Carolina, and Illinois, all to make a bowl game. Pays more than even money.
Yeah, it's tough to see a way where that loses again, barring a significant quarterback injury. I would expect all those teams. The 3 Big 12 teams, I have all 3 of them at 9 wins in my preseason projection. Ironically, the team that I had the lowest win total here in this group is South Carolina, who was the preseason ranked the highest in this group. But that's just, a brutal SEC schedule. Plus, they're going to have a big target on their back now from having a very strong season last year.
Part of the issue is the schedule and the target, right? I took this one with Nebraska, Oregon State, and Baylor. I'm hot on Baylor. I think Baylor returns like 16 starters. They get their quarterback back. They start the season at home against Auburn. I don't know how good Auburn's going to be, but I took Baylor to win that one. And they play in the Big 12 where anyone can win. So they're one of the most experienced teams in the Big 12. They have a good coach. I'm liking them to get 7. So I took that at plus 176 by adding Oregon State to make a bowl game.
Yeah, Oregon State now in the pack too. I have not done as much research into them as a lot of these other power conference teams. Do we still consider Oregon State and Washington State to be power conference teams? I feel like we can't, right?
No, they're not power conference anymore. I mean, just look at their talent drop off, right? A lot of their best players leave for good schools. And so they're now competing with a group of 4 teams, not power 4 teams. The last one on FanDuel that I have right here listed is Nebraska, Texas A&M, and Georgia Tech all at 7+ wins. Texas A&M, they were really hot last year. First year head coach. I don't know why their win total is so low. I think it's at like 7.5. Texas A&M damn near made the SEC championship last year. They returned their quarterback. They returned their running backs. They have one of the best running back units in the entire country, and they have a really good DC. So I'm hanging it with Texas A&M. I just think they're going to be a good team. So those are my initial ones that I put in Arizona. I've got a bunch more that I've put in other states when I was traveling. But I took South Florida in this first game plus 7.5 against Boise State. Not sure how you felt about that. It's a night game at home against Boise to start the season.
At the very least, the line is currently sitting at 6.5. So you have phenomenal CLV, which is a gambling term called closing line value. And generally speaking, if you're going to have good closing line value over time, you are going to win over time. That is the number one way to beat the casino, is to constantly be ahead of the line. So regardless, it's a good bet no matter the result. And the fact that you're on the other side of 7. In football, these key numbers, 3, 7, 10, 14, 21, like that games end a lot on. If you can get on the right side of the additional line there, it's a huge benefit. So regardless of the results, it's a phenomenal bet.
Yeah, I got in at a good time. Okay. I've got a parlay right here for the opening week. We've got Nebraska, Georgia Tech at Colorado, and we've got Utah at UCLA. I took them all money line. All three pays plus 216. I know that you think Colorado might win this game, but the other two you do like.
Yeah, love Nebraska, love Utah. That lay is, I like it because I think that it should win. However, as you said, all three teams are on the road. Well, Nebraska technically not on the road. It's going to be a home game for them, but they're not at their home stadium.
Yep.
But I definitely like Utah to win. I'm not high on UCLA this year. I like Nebraska. I do think Colorado is going to be pretty good this year. So I think that will be the trickiest one, but Georgia Tech should win the game.
Toughest game is for sure Georgia Tech at Colorado. And it's the one that it's kind of like the most unknown. I also did this. I don't know what you think about doing this. I don't know about this strategy. So Nebraska plays Michigan week 4. My logic is right now it's Nebraska plus 3.5 in that game. Michigan has to play Oklahoma before they come to Lincoln. And if they lose to Lincoln and Nebraska's undefeated and Michigan doesn't have their head coach, say Nebraska's now a top 25 team, I think this line could move to maybe Michigan -2 or even Nebraska as the favorite. Do you like the logic taking Nebraska at plus 3.5 here? I think the only way this is a losing logic is if Nebraska was to lose one of their games before they played Michigan. Am I wrong?
I could see the line moving either way for a bunch of reasons. I think what's going to be most key is the Michigan-Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
Like if Michigan goes in and stomps Oklahoma, then the line might move to 6.5 because everyone's going to want to be on Michigan. They've already shown.
Okay, hold on. There's brother. There's no world unless Nebraska loses that this line is moving to Nebraska plus 6.5. Maybe Nebraska plus 4.
The lines are not set on what Vegas thinks is going to happen. They're set on wanting to get equal action on both sides.
Correct.
So if Michigan gets super hyped up and they dominate Oklahoma and they look great and now they're moved into the top 10 and everyone's splooging over Bryce Underwood, then everyone's going to want to bet on Michigan even though it's on the road, and that's going to push the line in favor. And generally speaking, again, those key football numbers are very important. So 4 and 5, you can get through pretty fast because everyone wants to get it before it gets to 7.
That's fair. Here's where I'm not thinking you're taking something into account. Nebraska is extremely hyped this year. Some would argue they're overhyped in the offseason, okay? They're going to play Cincinnati, and they're going to play 2 cupcakes. They are going to be a top 25 team in it's pretty guaranteed at this point if they win those 3 games going into Michigan. There's going to be a ton of hype around Nebraska too. And I think the public will be hot on Dylan Raiola. I just don't see it going that high to 6.5. I hear you on the logic.
Saying I think it's going to happen. I'm saying that's like the most fringe scenario that feasibly could still happen. There's also another scenario where Michigan goes into Oklahoma and they lose like 30-13 and Nebraska dominates Cincinnati and wins by 21. And now Nebraska is a pick 'em or even a slight favorite.
Yep.
So I just think that Michigan-Oklahoma game is going to be so key. Really, as long as Nebraska doesn't shit the bed, Scott Frost going for an onside kick against Northwestern style against Cincinnati.
That's all it is.
They'll be 3-0 and everyone will be hyped on them. But it's going to all be determined and dependent on what the public thinks of Michigan moving into this game.
Fair.
So it could be a good line or it could be a big mistake. But I think more likely than not, it's going to be a good line because I do have Oklahoma beating Michigan in that game at Oklahoma.
Yep. Fair. Okay. Ben says Bramer might be the starting end for Iowa State, not Burkle. I think Bramer is the starting tight end. He's their top target. He's one of their top receiving targets. I'm taking Burkle at a low line because he's not the full-time pass-catching receiver, I don't think. So I think Iowa State tight ends could have 100 yards receiving. So as long as he gets 17.5, I'm feeling good.
Iowa State runs a lot of 2 tight end scheme, a lot of I formation. They run a more pro-style offense, so and even so, 20 yards receiving is like 1 good catch or 2 okay catches.
Yeah, and he could be targeted 6 times. So, let's see. Oklahoma plus 9.5 against Texas. I took this early too. This is a tough one, but my logic here was Oklahoma likely beats Michigan. Oklahoma, in my head, likely beats Auburn, which would make them an undefeated team playing against Texas. Texas, I'm betting, is going to lose to Ohio State out the gate. Now, if they don't, we're going to have either a 1-loss Oklahoma or against an undefeated Texas, or potentially an undefeated Oklahoma versus an undefeated Texas. In that case, getting 9.5 just seems like right now a really good value. I just think the hype is going to build for Oklahoma as people see John Mateer play.
Yeah, again, similar situation. Obviously, we talked about with the Nebraska side, with the Michigan side.
You have to remember, everything is who knows. It's all
Exactly.
a gamble. It's all a gamble. We have no idea. I'm betting based on what I think is going to happen early in the season, right? So if my gut tells me this is what's going to happen, I want to get the value on it now.
No, I like this one too, again, because I like Michigan to lose to Oklahoma, so that's plus Oklahoma. I also have Texas losing to Ohio State week 1. So if those things both happen, the line probably will move towards Oklahoma. So I do like this.
That's my thought. 9.5 is a lot of points. Let's see. The rest of these are all parlays. I took some long shots. Not even long shots. These are all easy. But they're long shot parlays because so many things have to happen. Like I need Missouri, Navy, Buffalo, Louisiana Tech to all make a bowl game. Plus I need Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt to get it done in a few. So long shot theoretically. But that brings us to one that I think is a very likely play. Nebraska over 7.5 wins at -4, 142. Did you ride this with me?
I have some parlay with Nebraska. I don't have anything officially straight, but I will be on it as we get a little, now that we're into the season.
Yeah, over 7.5 just feels really good. So I like them. I'm taking that. The last one I'll talk about, you liked Florida under 7.5 wins this year. So I took that, but the juice was too high. So I added in Oklahoma to make a bowl game with it to get it to plus odds.
I like it. And you got good value on Nebraska. Again, they're currently sitting -170 right now for 8 wins. So the market is certainly
because
very high on Nebraska.
All the talk show guys have come out and said Nebraska's going to go to the playoff. So everyone's taking Nebraska over 7.5. Ridiculous. Yep. Okay, let's move over to games this week. So this is on Brothrow. Everyone on Brothrow is on Nebraska currently. No surprise there.
No surprise there.
Let's see here on the games. So you've got Iowa State and Kansas State tomorrow. So everyone on Brothrow is on Kansas State. I went with Iowa State, and I'm going to tell you why. I think Iowa State returns more starters than Kansas State does. Their biggest losses are at receiver. I trust both head coaches, but I just think Iowa State is getting devalued here because they lost those receivers. Kansas State's getting a lot of love, and I'm not too sure why. I know they got some of their own transfer guys in. They only returned like 5 guys on offense. If you were to say who's the better quarterback, I'd obviously go with Rocco Becht, and that's why I'm taking them. But I think Avery Johnson's really good too. It's a toss-up game, and in a toss-up game, I'd rather be sitting with the points. So that's why I took Iowa State. I just think they're not getting enough love. I took them against Miami in their bowl game. Cam Ward didn't play in the second half, but Iowa State did have a challenge. They came through, and it's a team I trust and like. So while the whole world's thinking Kansas State, apparently, I'm taking Iowa State. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, this was a game that was, I thought, kind of tricky. Early on, I was feeling Kansas State. And the more I thought about it, the more I looked into it, the more I started to like Iowa State. I'm kind of in agreement with you. It feels to me like everybody loves Kansas State. And I think the main reason is for Avery Johnson. You said you think Rocco Becht is better. I believe most of the public would say Avery Johnson is the better quarterback.
Yep.
So I think that people look at Kansas State, they say, okay, Johnson is an electric athlete. He's a dual threat quarterback. We've seen him go out and have big games before and beat big opponents. So he's just going to go out and do it again. But Iowa State returns a ton of guys. Really, the only significant guys that they lost were those 2 receivers. And of course, there's 2 massive losses. Both those guys had like 1,200 receiving yards last season. And, the tight end that we're talking about for 20 yards was like the leading returning receiver.
Yeah.
But I also believe that receiver is probably the easiest position to recover in the transfer portal. It requires at least the least amount of synchronicity with the rest of the team. Now, obviously, you need to have that connection with the quarterback, that he knows where he's going to throw to. But in general, in terms of learning the playbook and, being in line with the plays, the receivers have the easiest job to do. What's my specific route, or I'm blocking. That's really all you got to focus on. You don't have to worry about being an offensive lineman and know, like, hey, if all my guys are stunting over to the right, then my assignment moves over here, and we have certain different changes for that. We may be shifting protection left, shifting protection right during the play. Of course, you have hot routes good for receiver, but I think they're going to go out.
Pause. Is this how you think about every bet? You're going this analytical and detailed on every single play?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not really. Just more so I'm trying to talk about this one specifically because this is the best game to talk about, and we're heading into a new season and all that. But yeah, Kansas State, they lost a lot of guys on defense as well. I think Iowa State, I was able to get 3.5 points in this game. I think that extra half point means a lot. So
It
both teams have
does.
good coaching staff. Both teams have experienced guys. But I think this game will be a little bit slower. And I like having the idea of having dogs points in the pocket with the dog. I believe each of the last 2 years, the dog won outright in this game, with Georgia Tech beating Florida State and, of course, Northwestern beating Nebraska in Ireland.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. This is going to be exciting to watch, though. 9 a.m. my time. I will be up and watching it. I actually went and bought a TV today, put that in my bedroom because I thought, originally I wasn't going to go TV because I just wanted to make sure I was up and out of bed early in the morning. And I didn't want to be sitting watching college football because that's the only thing I watch is college football, right? So I didn't want to be sitting watching college football in bed. But then I was like, you know what? I need to get a TV because if I was to go out one night and then the next morning, Saturday games are on and I'm not ready to jump up and start watching, I'll be pretty pissed off trying to, get a shower real quick so I can go sit on the couch. But anyway, I'm excited for this one. Rod, first off, he said volleyball girls won. So that's awesome. Am I surprised? No. Nebraska's expected to beat any team they play. They did it, and it looks like they're off to a hot start this year. So congrats to volleyball. Looking like we're going to go on for another national championship run, hopefully. And Rod sent 20 Corn Craze memberships. I appreciate you a bunch, brother. Thank you for that. Always supporting the channel. Hopefully I can come to one of your tailgates this year. I always have a great time kicking it with you. Ben, one of his plays, looks like this was on Prize Picks. He took Carson Hansen, touchdown, Dylan Edwards, touchdown, and Dylan over 50.5 receiving yards. I like that. I think both these teams are more run heavy than pass heavy. So yeah, this is a great play, Ben. I might have to ride you on that. That's very, very solid. Going over to our next one, Jake, we're going to talk about Ohio State, Texas, because that's not this week, it's next week. But I just want to think about the future and make sure I get line value. So Ohio State started as -2.5. It's now down to -2. Do you wait to bet this at game time? Do you get it at -2 right now if you want Ohio State? What's the vibe?
I haven't bet in a long time, so I feel like I have a pretty decent mind for knowing which way the line is going to move. Okay. So a situation like this, it would be if I expect it to move to 3, yes, I would hop on it. I also don't necessarily hate in this situation regardless because it is at 2.5. There's not really a huge difference between 2 and 2.5. Yes, it does mean that a 2-point win is now a push instead of a loss, which is great, but that really is the only exact result that affects it. And 2 points it's just not a super common result. Really, the worst situation for it is probably in double overtime once you start forcibly going for 2s, the 2-point shootout. Right. Like if it gets to triple overtime, then you're already fucked because you can't win by more than 3. But in the regular game, and again, most games are not going to go that deep. So I did lock in Ohio State at 2.5. I wanted to get on it in case it did move to 3, even though I did expect most people to be on Texas. So I'm not super shocked that it dropped this low. But I did hop on Ohio State early on this one.
Cool. So I'm with you on that. I'm taking Ohio State. Then the rest of the games for this week, is there any value you saw or anything you liked? I know you said something about Fresno State at plus 12.5. It's now up to 14. You're taking Fresno State still?
Yeah, so I liked Fresno State when I was looking at it earlier this week, and I really wanted to wait and see if it got to 14 because, again, this is opened at 14. It went to 13.5, went to 12.5. I didn't necessarily want to buy the bottom, to use like a stock market expression. A lot of times you could be looking at sports betting kind of like a stock market, where if you get the best price, and like you just put it in the stock market, you're going to make more money over time. So now that it's back at 14, that's definitely where I'd want to pull the trigger because, yes, that is a very key football number, and I don't think it's going to get to 14.5. And again, I could be very wrong on that, and by game time it is. And if that's the case, if it gets above a signature number or a special football number, you could always add more, dollar cost average, to use another stock market expression, like buy more at a better price. But that is definitely a line I'm going to lock in on Bro Throw once we get off the stream.
Okay, and then what was your thought on Fresno State? Why are you hot on them? It's Kansas State's opener at home this season in their brand new stadium. Jalen Daniels is back. You got Daniel Highshot running back. Obviously, Kansas returns some guys. They have the better coach in this situation, you would think. Fresno State's breaking in a lot of new. They have a new head coach. So why would you take Fresno State here?
I like Fresno State's new head coach. They brought in Matt Entz, who has been at North Dakota State for a long time. He's won several national championships at the D2 level. And now this is his first opportunity to be a head coach in D1. So I think he's going to have his team ready to go. I mean, this is the biggest game of the year for Fresno State. This is the best opponent they're going to play all season. I guess depending on what you think about at Boise State, but they play them every single year, so that's not as exciting.
Yeah.
Fresno State brought in a new quarterback, EJ Warner, Kurt Warner's son, who's been playing for a long time. He's experienced. I think he's going to be able to avoid mistakes and keep Fresno State in the game. Kansas lost a ton of offensive production. They lost their top 4 receivers from last season and their number 1 running back in Devin Neal. So it's going to be a lot of guys to replace. And I just think 14 points is a little bit too many for a team in Fresno State, who I think is going to be a lot more focused, even though they are obviously less talented.
Okay, fair enough. I'm riding Fresno State with you. Then the other game that day is Stanford, Hawaii. This line's bounced all around. It was down to 1. It was up to 3. Now it's at 2.5. What do you think about that? Stay away?
You know, it's a game. Hawaii opened up as a dog, and everybody, and I mean everybody, is pounding Hawaii. Depending on what people have different models and aspects they choose to follow when it comes to gambling. Like some people say, well, if everybody is betting Hawaii to the point that it's gotten this high, well, they're probably going to win. And some people are saying, well, I lost 5 points of value. I'm staying away because now it's way too high and I'm buying at the top.
Right.
I think Hawaii probably should win the game. They're at home. I don't think the Stanford team is very solid at all. Hawaii's got a more up-tempo offense, but I also am a little bit hesitant. I think it's money line only. I don't want to be taking the points after it's ballooned so much, and I'd rather just eat the juice on the money line if I want Hawaii.
That makes sense. I'm just staying away from it. I don't like taking games where I know nothing about either team, and I think this is one where I don't know enough about Stanford to be able to trust that they can compete with Hawaii, and that is the way I would lean, since in theory, they're the Power 4 team who should be more talented. The last one I noticed is that Boise State, South Florida one. So South Florida is +6 at home against Boise. So I'm glad I got on that +7.5. But I'll look at more bets and stuff later. Jake, I really appreciate you coming on and giving me some insight and talking with you about betting on football, because I'm going to be doing a lot of that this year. So I want to be as prepared as possible. And I know my chat follows some of your plays too. I've had people reach out to me and say they've paid attention now to Snowman since you've been on my stream. That's his nickname, by the way, guys. Jake's nickname is Snowman Sports. So if you want to find him on Twitter, just type in Snowman Sports, you'll find him. Oh, he does a live stream too.
Snowman_sports on Twitter. If you want to follow me, I post plays all the time. I'm tweeting about different games all the time, posting good information. You can also watch my live streams. I'm live every single day over on Twitch, twitch.tv/snowmansports. And you can also join my Discord, officially launched as of today. There is a link in my bio on Twitter to get access to the Discord, to get access to all my picks, spoon-fed right to you in the easiest possible, most convenient way. So I would definitely love to see some Corn Craze Army members in the chat, in the Twitch, and let's continue to win some bets during this college football season.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Jake, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. Peace. So that was Jake. Jake has been a friend of mine for a really long time. We watch football together. He's a Big Ten guy. He went to Indiana. So he and I had a lot in common, and he knows a lot about college football, kind of like I do. So he's one of my few friends from LA that I was able to sit down and talk to every single Saturday and, talk about all the games and how things went, since most people in LA just did not care. So I'm glad he's still hanging out and able to come on my stream. I saw that Kyle said, thanks for the membership, whoever it was Rod. Everyone who got gifted a membership tonight, that was from Rod. And I'm really glad that he's here to support the channel, and all you guys are too. I love when you guys come to jump into the chat and talk to me about whatever you guys are thinking, asking me questions. It helps me to have something to talk about. Otherwise, it would be pretty boring sitting here talking to the camera all the time, And I don't usually have a co-host on this show. So usually it's just me trying to vibe out with you. But I'll be back next week. We've got plenty to talk about. I wanted to get my gambling stuff in today because, the season officially starts tomorrow. I'm excited for it. And I know you guys are going to be betting on games too. So I'll talk to you more about Brother next week. Make sure you guys are all in on that, since a lot of value on Brother, we'll say. But yeah, I think that's all for today. So until next time, thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.